Oh, wow, 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 wow. Ich wollte nicht mit der Maus rumfuchteln. Oh, ein Fehler. Oh, das passt ja gar nicht. Hm. Ja. Guck mal, das Ding. Oh, easy. Thinking outside of the box. Imitation game. I propose to consider the question, can machines think? The new form of the problem can be described in terms of a game which we call the imitation game. It is played with three people, a man, a woman, and an interrogator, who may be of either sex. The interrogator stays in a room apart from the other two. The object of the game for the interrogator is to determine which of the other two is the man and which is the woman. He knows them by labels X and Y, and at the end of the game he says either X is A, Y is B, or X is B and Y is A. The interrogator is allowed to put questions to A and B. We now ask the question, what will happen when a machine takes the part of A in this game? Will the interrogator decide wrongly as often when the game is played like this as he does when the game is played between a man and a woman? These questions replace our original Can Machines Think? The question and answer method seems to be suitable for introducing almost any other fields of human endeavor that we wish to include. We do not wish to penalize the machine for its inability to shine in beauty competitions, nor to penalize a man for losing in a race against an aeroplane. The conditions of our game make these disabilities irrelevant. Yeah. The witnesses can brag, if they consider it advisable, as much as they please about their charm, strength, and heroism. But the interrogator cannot demand practical demonstrations. Okay. The game may perhaps be criticized on the ground that the odds are weighted too heavily against the machine. If the man were to try to pretend to be the machine, he would clearly make a very poor showing. He would be given away at once by slowness and inaccuracy in arithmetic. May not machines carry out something which ought to be described as thinking, but which is very difficult from what a man does? This objection is a very strong one, but at least we can say if, nevertheless, a machine can be constructed to play the imitation game satisfactorily, we need to be troubled by this objection. It might be urged that when playing the imitation game, the best strategy for the machine may possibly be something other than imitation of the behavior of a man. This may be, but I think it's unlikely that there is any great effect of this kind. In any case, there is no intention to investigate here the theory of the game, and it will be assumed that the best strategy is to try to provide answers that would naturally be given by a man. Excerpts from Computing, Machinery and Intelligence, Alan Turing. Ja, das war das, was wir schon mal... And the Lord God formed man of the dust of the ground and breathed into his nostrils the breath of life. Man became a living soul. Ist das nicht fast eine Analogie an das, was Menschen mit Maschinen machen? Menschen wollen teilweise auch Götter sein oder verehren sie. Roboter wurden auch tatsächlich nicht nur theoretisch hier wie auf dem Blatt, sondern auch aus, sag ich mal, Dreck und Dreck aus dem Boden in die Erde, in die Welt gebracht. Ah, ich weiß es auch nicht. Ich weiß es auch. So, I now proceed to consider opinions opposed to my own. The theological objection to thinking is a function of a man's immortal soul. God has given an immortal soul to every man and woman, but not to any other animal or to machines. Hence, no animal or machine can think. Ah, bullshit. The heads in the sand objection. The consequences of machines thinking would be too dreadful. Let us hope and believe that they cannot do so. The mathematical objection. There are a number of results of mathematical logic which can be used to show that there are limitations to the powers of discrete state machines. The best known of these results, known as Gödel's theorem, 1931, and shows that in any sufficiently powerful logical system, statements can be formulated which can neither be proved nor disproved within the system unless possibly the system itself is inconsistent. The argument from consciousness. This argument is very well expressed in Professor Jefferson's Liste oration for 1949, from which I quote, "Not until a machine can write a sonnet or compose a concerto because of thoughts and emotion felt, and not by the chance fall of symbols, could we agree that the machine equal brain that is not only write it, but know that it had written it. No mechanism could feel, and not merely artificially signal, an easy contrivance. Pleasure as its success, grief when its valves fuse, be warned by flattery, be made miserable by its mistakes, be charmed by sex, be angry or depressed when it cannot get what it wants." Sehr lange Beschreibung dafür. Na gut. Arguments from various disabilities. These arguments take the form: I grant you that you can make machines do all the things you have mentioned, but you will never be able to make one to do X. Numerous features X are suggested in this connection. I offer a selection. Be kind, resourceful, beautiful, friendly, have initiative, have a sense of humor, tell right from wrong, make mistakes, fall in love, enjoy strawberries and cream, make someone fall in love with you, learn from experience, use words properly, be the subject of its own thought, have as much diversity of behavior as a man, do something really new. Aber Maschinen und Menschen sind doch komplett unterschiedliche Spezies. Das wäre so, als ob du einem Mann sagen würdest, hier komm, schwimm mal im Ozean und tauch für 80 Stunden. Whatever. Sowas. Egal. Lady Lovelace's objection. Our most detailed information of Babbage's analytical engine comes from a memoir by Lady Lovelace, 1842. In it she states, "The analytical engine has no pretensions to originate anything. It can do whatever we know how to order it to perform." Italics? The statement is quoted by Archery, 1949, who adds, "This does not imply that it may not be possible to construct electronic equipment which will think for itself, or in which, in biological terms, one could set up a conditioned reflex which would serve as a basis for learning. Whether this is possible in principle or not, is a stimulating and exciting question suggested by some of these recent developments, but it did not seem that the machines constructed or projected at the time had this property." Ja, ab irgendeiner bestimmten Komplexität ist alles möglich. Argument from continuity in the nervous system. The nervous system is certainly not a discrete state machine. A small error in information about size of a nervous impulse and pinging on a neuron may make a large difference to the size of the outgoing impulse. It may be argued that this being so, one cannot expect to be able to mimic the behavior of the nervous system with a discrete state system. Andere Sachen. Das ist eine andere. Aber mal ich nur durchgucken. Okay, das hatten wir. Okay, die hatten wir auch. Dann die noch. CR. Thought experiments are important because a lot of the time you can't carry out the actual experiment, and this is true not only in philosophy but in science as well. So when Einstein Dad, imagine that you're sitting on a beam of light going to outer space. Well, that's a thought experiment. He wasn't going to say, let's get on a beam of light. Of course you miss the point if you say, well, we'd fall off. Or it would be too cold. So I thought experiments are always useful, and you test your concepts by imagining what it would be like if such and such were the case. Well, in this particular case, I imagined what it would be like if I followed a program for answering questions in Chinese and giving back answers in Chinese, even though I didn't understand a word of Chinese. And that was a very useful thought experiment, because it enables us to see that computation by itself isn't thinking. Consciousness exists only insofar as it is experienced by a human or animal subject. Okay, now grant me that consciousness in a genuine biological phenomenon. Well, all the time it's somewhat different from other biological phenomena. So, because it only exists insofar as it is experienced. However, that does give us an interesting status. You can't refuse the existence of consciousness by showing that it's just an illusion, because the illusion-reality distinction rests on the difference between how things consciously seem to us and how they really are. But where the very existence of consciousness is concerned, if it consciously seems to me that I'm conscious, then I am conscious. You can't make the illusion-reality distinction for the very existence of consciousness the way you can for sunsets and rainbows, because the distinction is between how things consciously seem and how they really are. Consciousness is a biological property like digestion or photosynthesis. Now, why isn't that screamingly obvious to anybody who's had any education? And I think the answer is these twin traditions. On the one hand, there's God, the soul and immortality that says it's really not part of the physical world. And then there is the almost as bad tradition of scientific materialism that says it's not a part of a physical world. They both make the same mistake. They refuse to take consciousness on its own terms as a biological phenomenon like digestion or photosynthesis or mitosis or meiosis or any other biological phenomenon. I think we all really have conscious states. To remind everyone of this fact, I asked my readers to perform the small experiment of pinching the left forearm with the right hand to produce a small pain. The pain has a certain sort of qualitative feeling to it, and such qualitative feelings are typical to the various sorts of conscious events that form the content of our waking, and such events are the data which a theory of consciousness is supposed to explain. In my account of consciousness, I start with the data. Then it denies the existence of the data. To put it as clearly as I can, in his book Consciousness Explained, Dennett denies the existence of consciousness. He says correctly that when I wrote my review, I took his book to be his definite statement, his position on the Chinese room, and I did not consult his earlier works. In fact, I did not know he had produced a total of 7 published attacks on this one short argument of mine until I saw his letter. He now claims to have refuted all 3 premises of the argument in 1987, but I have just reread the relevant chapter of his book and find he did nothing of the sort, nor did he even have make a serious effort to check the premises. Rather, he misstates my position as being about consciousness rather than about semantics. He thinks that I'm the only one concerned to show that the man in the Chinese room does not consciously understand Chinese, but I am in fact showing that he does not understand Chinese at all, because the syntax of the program is not sufficient for the understanding of the semantics of a language, whether conscious or unconscious. Furthermore, he presupposes a kind of behaviorism. He assumes that a system that behaves as if it had mental states must have mental states. But that kind of behaviorism is precisely what is challenged by the argument. So I have to confess that I don't find that the weakness of this argument in this recent book is helped by his 1987 arguments. Ja, Bewusstsein ist auch so eine Sache. Aber du kannst auch... Ich finde, das ist kein aussagekräftiges Statement, dass man sich... oder was ist das Experiment, dass man sich in den Arm pieken soll. Oder kneifen soll. Ich finde, das ist... Quatsch. Weil ich rede jetzt mal von Träumen. Man kann auch in Träumen riechen, lesen, fühlen, schmecken, alles. Alles, was du bisher schon mal erlebt hast oder ähnliches, kann durchaus in deinen Träumen so vorkommen, was zu sehr vielen Problemen führen kann, wenn man sich zu sehr, zum Beispiel luzides Träumen oder so, verirrt. Irgendwann mal Realitätsverlust zu haben. Das wird wahrscheinlich erst nach Jahren, Jahrzehnten extrem luziden Träumens irgendwann so sein, wenn das Leben nicht gut läuft und man sich eher in diese Welt flüchtet. Aber das nebenbei ich mal. Was? Perform her italics. This statement is quoted by Hartui, who adds, this does not imply that it may not be possible to construct electron. Ja, das hatten wir doch schon. Ja, das hatten wir schon. In einem anderen Text. In einem anderen Text. Was haben wir hier noch? Gut. Einmal gerade drehen hier, das geht auch gar nicht. So, nicht mal gerade. Dennett, John Scar. Seattle have a deep disagreement about how to study the mind. For Seattle, it is all quite simple. There are these bedrock time-tested intuitions we all have about consciousness, and any theory that challenges them is just preposterous. I, on the contrary, think that the persistent problem of consciousness is going to remain a mystery until we find such that obvious intuition and show that, in spite of first appearances, it is false. One of us is dead wrong, and the stakes are high. CR sees my position as a form of intellectual pathology. No should be surprised to learn that the feeling is mutual. For his part, he is one argument, the Chinese room, and he has been trotting it out, basically unchanged, for 15 years. It has proven to be an amazingly popular number among the non-experts, in spite of the fact that just about everyone who knows anything about the field dismissed it long ago. It is full of well-concealed fallacies. Was ist das denn? Fallacies. Kenn ich das Wort? Mal kurz überlegen. Ich weiß es gar nicht. Fallacy sagt mir gar nichts. By CR's own count, there are over 100 published texts on it. He can count them, but I guess he can't read them. For in all those years, he's never, to my knowledge, responded in detail to the dozens of devastating criticisms they contain. He has just presented the basic thought experiment over and over again. I just went back and counted. I am dismayed and discover that no less than 7 of those published criticisms are by me. Okay, done. They all debated me furiously in the pages of the New York NYRB back in 1982, when Douglas Hofstadter and I first exposed the cute tricks that make the Chinese room work. That was the last time that Seattle addressed any of my specific criticism until now. Now he trots out the Chinese room yet one more time, and he has the audacity to ask, now why does Dennett not face the actual argument as I have stated? Why does he not tell us which of 3 premises he rejects in the Chinese room argument? Oh, letzter Zettel. Oh, ist das anstrengend. So. Well, because I've already done so in great... erstmal. Well, because I've already done so in great detail in several of the articles, he has never deigned to answer. For instance, in Fast Thinking, way back into the Intentional Stance, 1987, I explicitly quote his entire 3-premise argument and showed exactly why all 3 of them are false, when given the interpretation they need for the argument to go through. Why didn't I repeat that in 1987 article in my 1991 book? Because unlike Sierra, I had gone on to other things. I did, however, cite my 1987 article prominently in a footnote, page 436, and noted that Sierra's only response to it had been simply to declare, without argument, that the points offered there were irrelevant. Irrelevant. Oh, ja genau, irrelevant. Irrelevant. Das ist das Wort. Irrelevant. Irrelevant. Jetzt habe ich's. The pattern continues. Now he both ignores the challenge and goes on to misrepresent the further criticism of the Chinese rule that I offered in the book under review, but perhaps he has forgotten what I actually wrote in the 4 years that it has taken him to write his review. Endlich, but enough of the Chinese room. What do I have to offer on my side? I have my candidate for the fatally false intuition, and is indeed very intuitions. CRL invites the reader to share with them the conviction that we know what we're talking about when we talk about that feeling. We know the feeling of pain that is the effect of the stimulus and cause of the dispositions to react, the quale, the intrinsic content of the subjective state. How could anyone deny that? Just watch. But you have to pay close attention. I develop my destructive arguments against his intuition by showing how an objective science of consciousness is possible after all, and how Sial's proposed first-person alternative leads to self-contradiction and paradox at every turning. This is the deepest mistake in my book, according to Sial, and he sets out to expose it. The trouble is that the objective scientific method I describe under the alarming name of heterophenomenology is nothing I invented. It is in fact exactly the method tacitly endorsed and relied upon by every scientist working with consciousness, including Crick, Edelman and Rosenfield. They have no truck with Sial's intrinsic content and ontological subjectivity. They know better. Sehr viel. Also hier scheinen sich alle mit dem Human Mind zu beschäftigen. Und das ist einfach nochmal so eine komplette Parallelgeschichte. Passt was zu dem, was jetzt hier gerade passiert, finde ich. Wer hat jetzt Bewusstsein, wer ist nicht? Was ist wirklich, wer weiß was? Es ist viel Input. Ja, sehr viel Input. Okay. Nein, da lang.